So flipping that over, what has been your biggest challenge so far today?
Okay, I think the biggest challenge was, I have all this digital agency experience. Like, I got this thing figured out. Before I had a team, I know how to do statements of work and scoping and project plans, and I can do this stuff in my sleep. So the first thing I did before my co-founder joined me, John, is I hired a small digital agency to help me with my prototype. And what I quickly learned is with a startup, and John was advising me at the time, he's like, maybe we should scrap together a team, like a UX, a developer, and whiteboard it out. And I said, I can manage this digital agency. And they were a great digital agency. The challenge is when you're doing a startup, you really have to be in the same room. You've got to be whiteboarding. You've got to be constantly in contact. You're doing stand-ups every day. The digital agency model for a startup, and I'm not talking about companies that are further developed, that are 100, 200 people, but when you're one person and you have a chunk of money, you're going to burn through too much money, which I did, working with the digital agency. And basically when I hired John, we took it immediately all in-house. And it's not that digital agency's fault. It's really my learning that, yes, I know the digital agency world and how it works. Doesn't always work, and I'd say most cases not, for a startup.
Startup is a different beast.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yep.
So what is the lesson that you kind of want to leave to people?
There's so many lessons. And again, we're just getting started, so I'm going to have like 100 more lessons in this next year. I guess the first lesson I would say is, number one, just because you have experience somewhere else doesn't mean that that's going to be, like, again, my digital agency world doesn't mean that that's going to be right for a startup. The other thing I would say is, surround yourself with people like people you've worked with, people you trust, because there's so many things going against you when you do your own startup. You don't need to have unknown factors with people. Like, you might have a great connection at a cocktail party. Don't make that person your co-founder. I've heard people like, oh, I'm looking for a co-founder. It's kind of like dating. I'm like, oh, good luck to you. I feel very fortunate. I know some people have met that way or whatever, but I just feel very fortunate that John and Mark are people that we've worked with over 10 years. John's wife used to work for me at agency.com. Like, we have a history, and we know kind of our flaws, our weak points, and our strengths. And I think that has really helped us come together. They say your first 10 employees can make or break your company. So I would say, be very careful who those first 10 employees are.